Rescues or puppies? Pure breeds or mixed breeds? What's the best thing? I love a rescue, and I'm not sure if I have energy to have a puppy, but there is pros and cons for both of them. One of them you can mold and shape in the way that you want. The other one, probably more mature, maybe already older and less energetic. But from the other side, then the puppy has loads of energy and needs, and you have to do everything perfectly, and you have so many important periods of their lives that they're going through. And the rescues, they will come for sure with loads of associations, with things that they already met and already experienced. And that is kind of a gamble. You never know what you're gonna get. We need to consider that some rescues and some breeders do an amazing job that might make your life much easier. So could be that the rescue is gonna pair you with the right dog, and a dog that is capable of being in a city and not going to be triggered by many things. And also the breeder might do a beautiful job with socializing this dog with many things in the house, and you might not have so much trouble with them. And if you choose the temperament right, I believe that you might have a dog, a puppy, that can be dealt with without destroying your life for a few weeks. But this just decreases a little bit the effort you're gonna have to do. You still have the pros and cons and the things you're gonna have to do with each one of them. So let's go through both types of dogs and what are probably the things that you're gonna have to consider. So training, both of them gonna need is probably different types of training. Puppies require more puppy training, socialization, being to places, exposing them to loads of things before they reach the 16th week of life, and even sometimes before that. And you need to be quite cautious as well, because puppies that are between 12 weeks and 16 weeks, they're going through what we call the critical period or the fear period, where they can get traumatized quite quickly. So you need to be a bit careful with how you're introducing them to things and making sure that you allow them to get in contact and get exposed to as many things as you can. And then we have the rescues, which I'm gonna think that possibly I would adopt a dog that is a bit older, so something like 7 years old. And this animal have lived in an environment that is different than my house, with people that are different than me, have habits, maybe barks to get food, maybe pulls in the lead, maybe never been in a lead before. And you're gonna have other types of training that you have to engage with. And probably this is the most tricky period when you get a rescue, is the beginning, because you're starting to learn and understand what kind of training they need, and then putting efforts to help them with that. Most likely, dogs that are being rescued, they have behavior problems already, or issues that made them be rehomed. Sometimes it's not because of a behavior issue, sometimes it's for other reasons, but the big majority of dogs have behavior issues. I believe that the time that I would give to those two types of dogs would be very similar. But with the puppy, we have the micromanaging. How many times is dog gonna go outside to not be inside the house? But also with the rescue, did they learn how to be in a specific place? Maybe the place that they learn how to be is different than my house. And with Marvin, I learned a lot about this, that everything that he learned when before he was with me, before 6 months, was already quite well ingrained in his personality. So I had to change most of his habits, and that took time. So with a puppy, I would have to maybe leave the house every 1 hour for toilet training, and with a rescue, maybe 1 or 2 hours as well, depending on how much they can hold their bladder. The same goes for mental stimulation, and the same goes for other things as well. So I don't think there is a big change in terms of how much time you're going to have to give to those two. But there is a big difference for me living in a city, which is rescues are more likely to already have associations or not be plastic enough for me to be able to mold them so much with the things around them. The puppy, I know that I can acclimatize almost all puppies into a city, and I can choose them based on how resilient they are to live around noises and people and dogs and novelty. When a rescue, most of the rescues that you are seeing, you're seeing them in an environment that is not the environment that they are most comfortable with. So when we assess an animal, for example, in a countryside or in a rescue center, this animal might show completely different behaviors when arrive in your house. And in the first 3 months, you still don't really know what is their personality. That is a little bit of a downside for me with the rescues. And something I learned massively with Marvin is that the thing that I most wanted in the world is for him to be happy. And it was so hard to make him happy. And this is why I'm going to give a little bit more of weight into the puppy side, because if this is such a big priority for me, I want to make sure that I am getting a dog that's going to fit in the environment that I live in, that I'm going to be able to make this dog very happy, very fulfilled. Another point with the rescues is that Marvin, for example, he came from the countryside, and when he arrived in the city, it was a big change in his life. There is very little rescues that you would be able to get a dog that came from a city like London, that lived in a place like I live, that is very central, and place them into a very similar place. So most of those dogs, they're already showing some kind of problematic behavior, and they would be better fit somewhere else. And maybe this is why they were rehomed, because the place where they were before was already not helpful for them. With the puppies, maybe I can choose a breed who has a very long period of socialization and have extra time to acclimatize them to several things like going to the tube. They're going to have to go into those noisy environments because I don't have a car, going to the bus, seeing people, being comfortable going to the vet, being touched. And I believe that is very, very valuable for me. And we have loads of types of breeders and rescues as well. So the breeders, we have people that are very experienced and they follow very specific guidelines to make sure that the dog's going to be healthy, that they're going to be sound, they're not going to have any problems like musculoskeletal problems, joint problems, or even genetic problems. Also, they normally have a guideline on what they should do for puppy socialization. So if you get the right breeder, the person should be able to answer a few questions for you. For example, what do they do for socialization with their puppies? How do they acclimatize the animal to be able to live in a city? What are the noises that they are acclimatizing the animal to inside of the house? What kind of experience this animal has with people and other dogs, with kids? Things that might be important for houses that have more of those triggers, or places like cities that have more of those triggers. Also, a good breeder should be able to show you the certificates that the parents are healthy, and also be able to show you any kind of tests that they did. So things like genetic tests or scans that they did with their dogs to show that their dogs are sound and fit to breed. Also, depending on the parents and how the parents are inbred, so breeding within the same family, they receive a number. And this means that animals that are being bred within the same family, so the number is high, they end up being more likely to have predisposition to diseases that are genetic. So things that almost never appear because they only appear when both parents have the gene, then they are not susceptible to those things. With the rescues, there is loads of rescues that do beautiful work, behavioral work, that they assess the person who wants to rehome the dog, they assess the house, they understand what is the best dog for them, lifestyle, breed, level of comfortableness in a city, things like that. So normally rescues have less information about the dog, less history. This is why it's so important to assess the animal that they have at the moment and be able to assess the person as well and try to do a really good match between those two. When I was searching for a rescue, and I have more experience with the rescue side of things in England rather than the breeders that have more experience in Brazil, but with the rescues, they did this with me and with Marvin, And obviously they placed Marvin in a city, in a big city. And he was the type of dog that would be scared of the minimum noise, like one car in the parkway, or from inside of the kennels hearing the bin truck. So this is the type of dog that, being in a city that have to deal with those noises in large quantity and also constant, probably was not the best idea. But they still chose this to be the best outcome for him. So this just shows us that the assessment is flawed. And as much as we would like it to make it perfect, we cannot make it perfect. So we need to be aware that sometimes even the shelter doesn't know about certain behaviors, and sometimes even the shelter doesn't realize the intensity of it. And this comes a little bit with the side part, which is dog might be in pain, it might be uncomfortable, it might have internal changes going on, and you don't know about any of that because we don't have the history of that. So as you guys can see, I'm tending much more to puppies, but this is only because I really believe I need an easy dog. And in the past, I have made a very serious decision getting a rescue. And I made that decision because I believe that we need to rescue dogs. And I believe that we need to take care of those animals that are already here, suffering sometimes or available to us. But at the same time, I don't have a house. I rent in London. I don't know where I'm going to live in the next 10 years. And this animal might be traveling around with me, might be living in a flat building, apartment. We don't really know. So I need to make life a little bit easier for me and for this dog. And quickly, just to finish, let's address an elephant in the room. Everyone talks about mixed breeding being a very healthy thing. And I feel like this is a misconception that grew in the last few years because pure breeds have been showing to have several diseases and genetic issues. And we are trying to avoid them because we want our dogs to be healthy and happy. But there is a problem, which is in the UK, the dogs that are mixed breed and that we are breeding. So remember, it's not like they are breeding in the street and you are collecting one of those dogs and having something like a village dog, a dog that's completely stray and doesn't have any kind of pure breed on them. This is one type of dog. But what we have in the UK is normally two breeds mixing. And when we have two breeds mixing, we need to remember that it might be that those two breeds already had those genetic issues on them. So when they mix and they breed, it might be that you're not actually avoiding anything. So this is what happened with Marvin. He was a bearded collie and he was mixed with some kind of shepherd or husky. We just know about his mom's side. We don't know about the other side. And we are certain he had collie eyes. He was diagnosed with that. So that is a genetic predisposition. And also we know he had hip dysplasia, which is very common in collies as well. And he had a few other things which were undiagnosed. And this is why I think it's so important for us to remember that mixed breeding doesn't mean that is a good thing. It's really important that we don't get caught up on the idea that pure breed is the best thing in the world. It is not. But breeding with intention is the most important thing. It doesn't matter if it's pure or if it's not. Being able to put animals together that are healthy and have healthy offspring is the most important thing. We know that there is some breeds, for example, Dalmatians, who a huge part of the population have some health issues. And what they decided to do a few years from now is mix a few other animals that are outside of the pure breed kind of circle to create animals that are much more healthy. That is different. That is beautiful. That is the best thing we probably ever had happening. And now there is this other type of Dalmatian who they bred to be healthy and sound and not have many of those genetic issues. But this is very different from putting a cocker with a poodle, breeding them together and then breeding them over and over and over and over again, and then ending up with genetic issues as well. So I got to the conclusion that most likely I want a puppy, which I'm a bit worried about already. But also, I'm not completely throwing away the idea of maybe adopting a dog that is older and hopefully from a breed that is very easy to socialize, and an animal that hopefully was already in a place that's very close to where I am and was doing really well with that. But most likely we are looking at puppies. So next episode, we're gonna do something really fun. We're gonna look through a few of the breeders, try to understand a little bit how it looks like to choose a puppy and start understanding what are the possibilities for maybe next year with a few breeders. I hope this was fun and I hope you liked it. If you did, please subscribe and like this video. It really helps us grow and put more videos out there for you. I see you soon. Bye.